I've always been fascinated by Clefairy. It's a cute, adorable Pokemon that was up for consideration for the mascot of the series. But it's always been a bit strange as well. It is found almost exclusively in Mont Moon and can only be evolved with a Moonstone. It's constantly hinted at that the Moonstone and the Clefairy are from the moon, and Clefairy can pull off just about any move in the game with Metronome. There are obviously more mysterious and strange Pokemon, but to me, Clefairy seems to have more to hide than most others. Recently, I got a peek behind the curtain, or at least I think I did. I'm still not sure what exactly happened. One of my favorite hobbies is browsing eBay for bootleg video games, specifically Game Boy games. I don't know what it was about that console, but it seemed to open the floodgates for poorly made, poorly translated bootlegs more than any console before it. Most of these bootlegs were Pokemon games, no doubt because of how much of a sensation the franchise became. I already had the big ones: Pokemon Jade, which was really the Japanese exclusive telephone game, a badly translated Pokemon Green, some poor sap's well made ROM hack illegally dumped onto a real cart. I had them all, so I kind of lost steam when it came to collecting these bootlegs. Every time I would browse the eBay listings each week, it was more of the same. I slowly became bored until one day I saw something. Pokemon Pink version, Special Clefairy Edition, rare. This intrigued me, so I clicked on the listing to learn more. The cartridge was tinted pink and had a Clefairy on the label, very similar to the Pokemon Yellow cartridge. I quickly scrolled down to the description. Unreleased prototype cartridge. This is from my private collection, barely played. Comes with plastic protective case. See images for quality. I had heard that Game Freak were planning on making a pink version as a counterpart to Yellow to appeal to the female gaming demographic, but I didn't think they got to the point of making physical cartridges for it. This was probably another one of those ROM hacks that some bootlegger put on a cartridge. Still, it didn't matter to me. I had never seen this one before, so I decided to bid on it, and with some skillful last-second sniping, the cartridge was mine. When the cartridge arrived in the mail, I immediately inspected it to see if it was legit or not. I'll spare you most of the details and say that it checked out. It had the right kind of screw, it had an embossed number, all the telltale signs of a reproduction cart were absent. This seemed to be a real cartridge. The only thing out of the ordinary was that the normal identification code on the side of the label read GBC prototype. I wasn't surprised, since the seller claimed it was an unreleased prototype, but it was another apparent sign of legitimacy. After all of my numerous checks, I finally put the game in my SP to see what it was all about. After the standard Game Freak logo screen, I saw a Clefairy in the distance running towards the camera, mirroring how Pikachu did in the Yellow opening. It cut between that and various other shots. Clefairy running across some water, Clefairy admiring some fireworks at night, and most amusingly, Clefairy riding a penny farthing bicycle. Finally, the Clefairy came close enough to the screen in the running animation. It gave its trademark toothy smile and winked before the screen flashed white and went to the title screen. A horribly crunchy but still somewhat cute Clefairy sound came out of the Game Boy's speakers. Starting the game wasn't too different, though my trainer was a girl, expectedly with the default name Pink. She looked like that girl, Green from the Pokemon manga. My rival, following suit, was also a girl, with the default name Cyan. Anyways, the game played almost identically to Yellow, save for substituting Pikachu for Clefairy, and substituting Cyan's Pokemon for a Jigglypuff. This included Oak catching Clefairy in the grass outside of Pallet Town, which didn't make much sense. Sure, Pikachu also isn't native to the grass near Pallet Town, but Clefairy are basically only found in Mont Moon. Then again, this was a prototype. So had this game gotten further along in development, this probably would have been addressed. My little Clefairy, which I nicknamed Kim, even had its own cute facial expressions when I talked to her. I went through the beginning of the game as normal, leveling up Kim and catching some Pokemon as backup. Clearly, I didn't need any, as Kim's pound ability was wrecking shop. She was still a bit slower than the Rattatas and Pidgeys, but Pound was able to take care of them before she could take too much damage. I beat Brock and went through Mont Moon. I picked up a Moonstone, which I planned on using to evolve Kim when she was a high enough level as well. Even though that's where Clefairy are from in the games, I still didn't expect to come across a wild one, since Clefairy was my starter. It was in one of those underground ladder tunnels, when suddenly I encountered one. I can't think of any time in the first gen games where there's a mirror match with your starter, so this surprised me quite a bit. Before I could land an attack, it ran away. This was strange, but I chalked this up to one of the subtle differences made for Pink version. I decided to level up my Pokemon before fighting Misty since I didn't have an electric-type Pokemon on my team yet. So Kim had already learned Metronome, going into the gym. After snaking around the paths to avoid the extra trainer fights, I got to Misty and the fight commenced. It didn't start off too well, with Kim's health being steadily lowered each turn by Misty's Staryu. That's when I decided to try out Metronome. Metronome activates a random ability from the game to use on the opponent, so every time it's used, it's a mystery. However, this time, it was even more of a mystery. On my turn, the text box read, Kim used Loom. Staryu is too scared to move. Loom? I never heard of this move before, and yet it had just saved my skin. Praying for another lucky break, I used Metronome again. Kim used Reap. I watched in amazement as the Staryu's mostly full health bar drained to zero, and Kim's nearly empty health bar refilled to full. Another crazy new move I've never heard of. My best reasoning for how this happened was that Metronome randomly selected two moves that went unused by any Pokemon in-game that hadn't yet been removed by the developers. But really, I still have no idea what the reason is. Misty sent out her Starmie, and I was back to square one. Seeing how well Metronome was doing, I used it again. Kim used Mind Twist. Starmie feels strange. It looked like Starmie had been afflicted with some sort of negative status, but it didn't say what. Next turn, after selecting my attack, some more strange text showed up. Starmie hit itself. Starmie's health slowly went down. At first I thought Starmie was confused, but it didn't say that it hit itself in its confusion or anything like that, just that it hit itself. This carried on for a few more turns. Even with Pound, this was taking a while, so I decided to use Metronome one last time. Kim used Chrysalis, an animation played that was similar to Wrap or Bind. When it finished, Starmie's sprite was replaced with that of a cocoon. Now, attacking would give the text, Kim's attack continued, typical of a wrapped Pokemon. Starmie's health drained more and more with every turn. Right before it was about to faint, Kim's attack finished, appeared in the text box. The cocoon sprite disappeared and was replaced with a Clefairy. A Clefairy came out of the cocoon that used to be a Starmie. I was speechless. What was this move, some kind of reverse transform? As I was trying to wrap my head around what just happened, the Clefairy Starmie ran away, and the battle ended. It ran away. A trainer's Pokemon ran away. I stood there in silence, just staring at the screen for a few seconds, processing all that had transpired. Misty didn't say anything when the battle ended. Even when it went back to the inside of the gym, she said nothing. I just received the TM and that was it. It felt like she was just as confused as me. Checking with Kim showed her with a very pleased expression. She looked proud. I got a chill, but I didn't know why. I decided to take a break and get some water to clear my head. When I got back, I decided to make my way to Bill's house. After going through another fight with Cyan and the trainers on the bridge, I reached the place. I immediately noticed that Bill was in his normal human form. I guess he hadn't used his teleporter machine yet. Probably another new addition to Pink version. Talking with him, he explained how he was in the middle of testing said teleporter. Bill said he would help me if I helped him to finish the testing and went into the teleporter. He instructed me to use the PC to activate the machine, so I made my way over and pressed A. Then something strange happened. As soon as I pressed the button, Kim and I swapped places, and the sound for activating the teleporter played. A text box popped up. Bill, no, not that button. But it was too late. The sound effect for the teleporter played, and a few seconds later, Bill emerged from the teleporter as a Pokémon. Except he didn't have the normal Raiden-looking sprite. He had the Clefairy sprite. Clefairy! Bill couldn't even speak. He actually was a Clefairy now. Kim showed one of those happy face speech bubbles above her. I went over to check on Bill, but he kept making those Clefairy noises. Then I noticed something. Normally there's only one entrance exit to the houses in this game, signified by a doormat, but there was another doormat on the far wall. I decided to check it out. I was in Bill's backyard, that little empty space behind his house on the overworld. There was actually something here now. It was a fenced-in backyard with a weirdly cinematic view of the sky. The moon was in the dead center of the sky. Before I could do anything, Kim moved on her own, making her way to the edge of the fence. Another text box appeared. Kim used Moonstone. Suddenly, one by one, Clefairy started climbing into the garden. There had to be at least a dozen of them. After they all had settled, Kim stood in front of them all. Clefairy used Metronome. Clefairy used Chrysalis. I wasn't in battle, and you can't use Metronome on the overworld, so I had no idea what would happen. The screen flashed white, and when it returned to normal, my character's sprite had also become a Clefairy. The screen went to white again, and suddenly I was back on the title screen. Once again, I was speechless. I tried to load my game, but the option was gone. I could only start a new game, so I did. It skipped past the introduction with Professor Oak, and I was put immediately in my house. Except the character sprite was still a Clefairy. I checked the menu, and my name was Clefairy. I guess there still wasn't enough room for the full name. I couldn't interact with anything in my room, so I went downstairs. My mom was also a Clefairy. What the hell? I was able to interact with her, but all that did was provide a text box with Clefairy. Outside in Pallet Town, everyone was also a Clefairy. My rival and all the lab assistants were also Clefairy. I decided to see what would happen when I tried to leave Pallet Town. Surprisingly, I was stopped. Unsurprisingly, another Clefairy walked up to me. Another text box appeared. It said, Kim beckons you. Kim? But this was a new save file. How did the game remember that name? Kim dragged me into Oak's lab, and a conversation started. Kim, since you are a Clefairy, you can understand me. Kim was talking to me. I was a Clefairy, so I guess I would understand what she was saying. Clefairy came here looking for a new home. But there were already people here, so we had to make it our own. She was awfully cheery while saying all of this. Now Clefairy can all be happy together. Kim jumped in the air and twirled, then the other Clefairy followed suit. I was able to leave after that. I went to see what the rest of the game was like, and sure enough, every NPC was a Clefairy. Anytime a random battle would occur, it would be a Clefairy. Since they were all Clefairy, I was able to explore the entire game, even Cinnabar Island. Metronome was an overworld move now and could function like any HM move. There still wasn't anything to do, just Clefairy being happy and living their lives. I turned off the game after a while. What did I just play? I thought this was a legit cartridge. Would Nintendo really make a game like this? I still don't know. All I know is that the Clefairy came from the moon in search of a new home, invaded and assimilated everyone on the planet, and lived happily ever after. The end. We're all effed.